We are the last generation who can stop devastating climate change. The last generation who can save the ice caps, save wildlife, and save ourselves. The truth is, we know what we need to do. Let's act now. Together we can stop climate disaster. Join the fight for your world.
We're in the middle of a vast ecological emergency.
We're looking at starvation.
I mean, think about that. Wildfires in the Arctic.
It's not going to be too long until it comes for everybody.
You can't sort this one out by being the world's best recycler or taking shorter showers.
I'm afraid the sort of traditional methods of campaigning that we've been using haven't kind of delivered that sense of urgency yet.
So what Extinction Rebellion is doing is creating disruption in society so that people start attending to the issue.
It is a peaceful, non-violent movement for civil disobedience.
The best thing I could do was to be out there demanding radical change.
Extinction Rebellion's entire focus is about reweaving the 100%, the whole human family.
This is not even about future generations anymore. This is about us and whether we get to have a future. We need everyone's hands on deck and bodies on the line in order to stop these catastrophic possibilities from coming to fruition.
Climate change is happening faster than even scientists had thought possible. Scorching heat waves, ferocious storms, torrential downpours.
This is the issue of our time.
There will be climate refugees, even here in Britain.
Nothing like this has ever happened before. We're evidently chapter one.
Today, Mr. Speaker, this House must declare an environment and climate emergency. We have no time to waste. We are living in a climate crisis that will spiral dangerously out of control unless we take rapid and dramatic action now. This is no longer about a distant future. We're talking about nothing less than the irreversible destruction of the environment within our lifetimes of members of this House.
We are here because the world is facing a grave climate emergency. Climate disruption is happening now, and it is happening to all of us. It is progressing even faster than the world's top scientists have predicted, and it is outpacing our efforts to address it.
The heat wave that continues to batter India. Extreme temperatures across the north and the east of the country have caused hundreds of deaths. In the south, the searing hot spell has led to severe water shortages. The situation has reached a crisis point in Chennai. This is India's sixth biggest city. Chennai's 4 main water reservoirs have dried up. Take a look at the satellite image from 1 year ago. You can see the water levels there. And this is what it looks like now. Residents are desperate for rain, but monsoon season in Tamil Nadu isn't supposed to come until late in the fall. Locals are now blaming authorities for failing to recognize the shortage and deal with it early on.
Storm threat as we're on the air. New watches at this hour. Heavy rain, damaging winds, and possible tornadoes from Tennessee up the East Coast right into Pennsylvania. And tonight we've learned that was a EF2 tornado in South Bend, Indiana. Winds up to 125 miles per hour. A flash flood emergency in the Midwest, homes underwater. This is Anderson, Missouri you're looking at. We have the track of the storms tonight, and here's ABC's Steve Osunsami now.
42 million Americans are in the path of severe storms tonight. And this evening, the National Weather Service says this one in Indiana was a tornado with wind speeds of up to 125 miles an hour, an EF2.
You can see that this building's roof completely ripped off.
The Growing Kids Learning Center in South Bend took a big hit. Fortunately, no children were inside. In Houston this morning, the rains nearly cost this man his life. Highway traffic cameras were recording as first responders rescued him from rising waters.
Ultimately, the most important thing is his life. So we was able to get him out of the water.
Authorities say that heavy rains are blamed for the death of a woman in Oklahoma who died after her car was swept into a creek. Floods over the weekend rolled through Missouri. 2 kids in the town of Monette had to be rescued when they fell into fast-moving water. Lightning from this same system destroyed a home in Spring, Texas, and a lightning strike sent them running at this outdoor concert in Kansas.
吓死了！那个楼整个摇过来摇过去的，然后在那个楼上，然后在那坐着，我以为我头晕，你知道吗？后来我的同事也跟着我。
救命！救命！救命啊！
我现在被困了，我该怎么办？我好怕。
There was a freak hailstorm in Mexico. It dropped about 5 feet of ice pellets yesterday north of Mexico City. Look at these images.
This. 5 feet.
5 feet. Cars were absolutely buried. Nearly 200 homes and businesses reported damage from the hail. There were no casualties.
That's amazing. And the whole thing is amazing.
It really is. The temperature in Guadalajara is expected to be a high of 81 degrees today.
People are in shorts there.
I know, but look at all that snow.
Ice pellets.
The governor called it incredible. This is really
Europe
incredible.
is bracing itself as parts of the continent are expected to see temperatures soaring above 40 degrees Celsius this week. Meteorologists say this June heat wave will possibly break previous national all-time records in France before Friday.
Germany is sizzling, with about a quarter of the country hovering around 100 degrees. And in Spain, triple-digit temperatures are contributing to the country's worst wildfire in 20 years. Europe has been sweltering for days as a heat wave moves across the continent. Several countries have set new June records, including a high of 115 degrees in France on Friday, surpassing the old monthly record by 3 degrees. Weather experts say heat waves like this are becoming more intense and common. Mark Maslin is a climatologist at University College London.
We know that these sort of heat waves are now twice as likely to occur than they were, say, 20 years ago. And what's worrying is with climate change, the frequency is going to increase in the future.
The World Meteorological Organization says this year is on track to be one of the hottest in history, and that this heat wave is consistent with greenhouse gas emissions. Here in France, relief is in the forecast.
A couple of years ago, the weather news was dominated by El Niño.
El Niño.
El Niño. El Niño.
El Niño. El Niño.
A naturally occurring climate pattern with warmer than usual waters in parts of the Pacific Ocean, and one that can have far-ranging effects on weather around the globe. We haven't heard much about El Niño's events recently because they happen on irregular cycles that last about 2 to 7 years. But now, El Niño is starting to come back. The Federal Climate Prediction Center officially declared El Niño conditions in February 2019, the first time since the last flurry of activity in 2015 and 2016. So what does El Niño mean for our weather forecast? Typically, El Niño events increase rainfall patterns across the United States, but in the rest of the world, El Niño brings drier climates, which could lead to drought or to wildfires in places like Indonesia and Australia, experts told NBC Mock. The climate pattern also affects hurricanes. It tends to reduce the number of severe storms in the Atlantic, while increasing hurricanes and typhoons in the Pacific. Some experts also think El Niño events have an impact on tornadoes, but here the potential link is more nuanced and less understood. That's partly because several factors play a role in the tornadoes that tend to rip through certain areas at a high rate. For example, a 2016 study found that even a weak El Niño effect could increase the risk of spring tornadoes in the upper Midwest. But another study found El Niño conditions tend to decrease the risk of springtime tornadoes in the south-central U.S. area known as Tornado Alley. Whether or not El Niño is to blame, this spring has been full of severe tornadoes in places like western Ohio, Texas, Missouri, and Nebraska. Over a 12-day stretch in May, a total of 225 confirmed tornadoes struck across the country. Also unclear is how El Niño conditions might be affected by climate change. A December 2018 study published in the journal Nature suggested El Niños may become stronger and more common as greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere, warming the planet's oceans. More research is needed in this area, and it's a question whose answer is key to understanding how climate change will affect future weather.
These are remarkable times. We're living through a crucial moment in the history of our planet. Yet we seem to charge ahead towards a catastrophic future, rather than seizing the opportunity to pause and change our ways. Human activity currently generates an excess of carbon emissions, which are released into the atmosphere, causing higher temperatures, which melt ice sheets and glaciers, contributing to rising sea levels and floods. Right now, the planet is already 1 degree Celsius warmer than it was 120 years ago. Scientists warn that we need to prevent the temperature from rising more than half a degree, and we need to act now. Or we will live to see the pollution of oceans and air, shortages of food and fresh water, the extinction of many species, the disappearance of low-lying cities and islands, mass migrations and social unrest. Millions of casualties due to floods, storms, heat waves, droughts, and disease.